My name's John Taylor. I'm the founder and the executive director of Project Surf Camp. It's really kind of a neat story of how Surf Camp started. If you go back, I was born with a birth defect. I have one leg, and water was always a great equalizer for me. I was a swimmer and a water polo player growing up in high school, and then swam Division II in college, and just water was everything about me. And went to school, got master's degree in recreation therapy, and ended up going to special education, getting my special ed teaching credential. And I was surfing, hooked up with one of our local surf shops, and I was a team rider for them. One of the reasons, not that I'm a great surfer, but someone with one leg tends to draw a lot of attention. So I'd go out and I'd surf with their adventure camp and their camp that they had. And during the time, one of the days after one of the camps, I'm like, hey, you guys ever thought about having a camp for kids with special needs? They're like, no, but that's a great idea. So we dabbled with surf camp for a couple years and realized there was a huge need, and I formed the nonprofit fall of 07, and so 08, the summer of 08 was our first year, and it just exploded. And we've been growing ever since. Not only our camps and pretty much everything I schedule is filled, but the support that we get. And we partnered up with the city of Morro Bay a few years later, and it's just been an awesome partnership.
My name is Dennis Wickman, and I work for Sanger Unified School District. We became connected with Project Surf Camp in 2015 and ended up having conversations with John Taylor, and he invited us to come and volunteer at one of the Project Surf Camps. So once we did that, the motto of Project Surf Camp, Changing Lives, is something after volunteering with that and being in education and just the power that camp did for children and adults with special needs. My wife and I, Erin Dolan, kind of became friends and wanted to know how we could help the organization. And one of the things that we started talking about doing is running a conference for educators, really with the same philosophy of changing lives, bringing in presenters from across the state and working with educators to give them the tools needed to work with students across the spectrum of needs. And so in 2019, we ran the first Summer Learning Institute. Great success. And of course, COVID hit just like everything else, which kind of shut us down for a year. We came back last year in really kind of a modified version again, really with the COVID, just trying to make sure maintaining spacing, but we still wanted to be able to provide that experience for educators. And so this is our third year. And really, again, the intent is bringing in expert speakers across trauma-informed practices, equity, instruction, and also legal issues related to education. And we do bring in educators from across the state. We have teachers, we have administrators, we have superintendents, and it's a great environment. It's when school is mostly out, so the teachers and staff can actually come and relax and focus on the learning and then take that back to their schools and ultimately change the lives of not only the surf camp students, but change the lives of every individual student that the educators come across in their work.
My name is Mark Evanoff, and I attended the Trauma-Informed Practices for Educators session presented by Dr. Martha Merchant. It's actually my second time seeing her. She was here 2 years ago, and even though I consider myself somewhat of a subject matter expert on trauma, it's always a really informative session. Specifically, the strategies that she shows us and the different alternative ways that we can approach things. I specifically like the voice and choice strategy, where we give the students the option and the desires to, write and discuss and talk about the things that interest them rather than making them do something that is not interesting to them. So I especially like that part about it.
My name's David Ashby, and the session I went to was by reducing behavior problems by increasing student engagement. The big takeaway I got from this one was we want to change the environment around the students by changing the desk's height or giving them a fidget spinner, or giving them a ball to bounce on. Changing that environment and not changing the student themselves. A lot of the students have ADHD issues and learning disabilities. When we engage in the students and give them lots of motion, lots of brain breaks, about every 15 minutes, a student learns, has to be engaged for about 1 minute per year old they are. So a 15-year-old student can engage in activity for about 15 minutes. And then we need to change it up. We need to change the activities. We need to change the expectations that we have for that student. A really big takeaway from that was that we want to help these students be successful. We want to be proactive in our approach to the students and their engagement, and we want to prevent us from being reactive. We don't want to have a student already in the red and then have to talk them down. We want to keep them in the green, keep them calm, and then that way they can be more successful within the classroom.
My name is Abraham Zuniga. I'm the resource specialist, and I was in reducing behavior in the classroom. Yeah, two things that really stood out to me was the beginning. They had us do word search where there was 2 sets of music playing while the lights were flashing, and we had to clap our hands. Basically, it was to simulate what anxiety and what an overwhelming feeling and overstimulus feels like. And I think it was a good thing because as educators, we kind of forget how a lot of our kids feel, day to day. And so it was nice, and it was refreshing for us to see, the things that they go through and how they feel. The second thing I liked was a concept called introception. And I thought it was really good because a lot of times, it's hard for kids to discuss what emotions feel like. You ask them, well, how do you feel when you're mad? Or how do you feel when you're sad? And, they just draw a blank. But what introception does is you're actually asking them, what does it feel like physically when you feel that emotion? And they're able to describe those, they're able to say, oh, I feel nauseous. I feel jittery. I feel my hands clenched. And so when they're able to identify those things, then you can actually plan for strategies so that way they can cope with those emotions.
Hey, good morning. This is Susan Nissan at the PSC Summer Institute. This morning I attended a session that was presented by Allison Lindsay, who is from the Santa Barbara County Office of Education, from the SELPA there, which works with special education students. Her presentation was on a handbook that has been created to help those who are working with students with emotional and behavioral disorders, particularly in the special education environment. But I found that many of the tips that were shared very much apply to our work with alternative education with students at Fusion. We talk about a lot of the same strategies when a student is in an emotional state of distress. We don't make demands on them. We offer support. We try to bring them to a point where they can regulate and calm down before we begin to make other types of other strategies to get them back onto an academic track. We always say that addressing our students' emotional needs has to come before we can make any kind of academic progress. So we really appreciated the work that was brought to us from the Santa Barbara County Office of Education this morning.
I'm Becca Rumkowitz, and I just attended the session Engaging All Students, Lessons Learned from Incarcerated Youth, and I found the session to be fascinating and relevant. I think a lot of the focus, I hope that the teachers and educators who are working with elementary students pay special attention, because it definitely explained a lot of how students end up in programs like what we offer at Fusion. I especially liked that he noticed that there are students who won't have an interest in authors like John Steinbeck unless we show them why it's relevant. And that is something that we're doing at Fusion, and I look forward to continuing to do it.
I attended the Free and Appropriate Education Does Everyone Need a One-on-One Aid session. What I learned was that it's important that we aren't quick to give students an IEP or a one-on-one aid. We have to assess them properly to determine if it is a behavior issue or if it is a special needs issue and determine where those behaviors came from. It is also important to recognize that if it's a special needs matter or a general education matter and not just defaulting it all to SPED.
I'm Rebecca Zier. Today I attended the talk about student growth versus grade level. And first of all, an important message was that grade level is not bad at all because we need a benchmark. But it's hard to motivate students if you have a student above grade level, so he has no reason to achieve more. On the other hand, if you have a student below grade level, far below, it's hard to motivate the student because it seems unrealistic for him to reach grade level. So the main idea is to shift from grade level to student growth, because if we meet the students where they are, we can show them that they can become better. So it's a nice reminder that we should pick up the students where they are and achieve with them a little bit of growth from where they start.
Hello, my name's Susan Nissan. I just attended a session with Opal Singleton on human trafficking and sexploitation. It was a difficult topic and very important topic because all of our children are at risk, particularly the most vulnerable children. 80% of foster youth get involved in some type of sexual exploitation. And we deal with children who are vulnerable. There is a worldwide network now of individuals who are out looking for kids who are in trouble, who are at a point where they will respond to someone who reaches out with a fraudulent appearance of forming a relationship, and that person turns out not to be who they thought they are. Getting this info out, we were given a lot of resources by Opal Singleton about the videos that her organization, Million Kids, has produced. And so we want to make sure that we take that information back to our colleagues at Fusion Charter and at Aspiranet, but also get it out to our parents and to our larger community.
Okay, hi, I'm Lorraine Jones. I just finished the program workshop about alternative education, keys to successful alternative education programs. Found a lot of similarities with our program. Talked about restorative justice, social emotional learning, smaller class sizes, a lot of behavioral interventions, and a lot of support systems built in. One of the most interesting things I learned was that in 2019, they had a 48% suspension rate. And now, after implementing a lot of these changes and trainings at their schools, they now have a 0% suspension rate. They're no longer taking kids out of class, moving them out. There are 69% fewer removals from class. And just an overall much more successful program. 3 small schools operating under one big umbrella. Class sizes are smaller, a lot happier people, and another major component is the community involvement and bringing the home into the school, that connection with the home and school.
My name is Maria Garcia, and I just came out of the trauma-informed workshop that we had today. What I learned was that pre-work will always get you a long ways when it comes to building a relationship with our youth. Our youth need to know that us educators, us teachers, us aides do care for them. If you show them that you care, you will build a relationship. You will open up a door that they are not comfortable opening up, and you might be able to prevent someone from committing suicide, or you might get an alert so that you could help that one youth that doesn't have the help at home. That was a very touching subject because I do work with youth. I have kids of my own, and it's always nice to know the keys to get to our teens'
I attended student confidentiality rules for school counselors. It was a good session led by Joshua Whiteside, who's an attorney. He's here every year, and every year he focuses on probably the most important issue of the day. So he's taught vaccines in the past and transgender rights. Today was all about mental health. It was a good opportunity to get refreshed on some of the rules that pertain to me and my role as a school counselor. So I enjoyed it very much.
Hi, my name's David Ashby, and I just attended a session, 9 Characteristics of a Highly Effective School, led by Dr. Nancy Padilla. There were 3 elements of a highly effective schools. There were goals, supports, and procedures. Linking all these elements together were effective leadership. And effective leadership had many different qualities. Some of the leadership qualities were being proactive, having a vision that everyone can support. The vision at Fusion Charter is having social emotional needs come first, academic comes second. What that means is that our heart and our minds come first, English and math will come second. Students will progress at their own pace going through the courses, that we want a student to feel safe and secure, and then their academics come second. Dr. Nancy Padilla closed her session with a quote that if high quality schools is the destination, then effective leadership is the engine.
Good afternoon. This is Susan Nissan, Principal Fusion Charter School. I'm here on the final day of the PSC Summer Learning Institute. It's been an awesome conference, but it's our first experience being the presenters. We brought a team of 10 people to run a circles workshop for the rest of the participants. I think we had at least 60 people in the room with us experiencing circles the way that Fusion runs circles. And I have to say, it was so rewarding to be able to share with these other educators, many of whom are from the Central Valley and work with populations that are similar to our population. You know, one of the things that sometimes we talk about at Fusion is that we have a small group of students that we influence. Each student is very valuable. Our work is worthwhile, even with our small group of students, but to be able to impact students from all over the state has been really a wonderful opportunity for us. The conference hosts have been incredibly welcoming to us and have supported us and allowed us to bring in our film crew and to be able to really experience this conference in a way that we never have. So I have to say I'm so grateful that we have had this opportunity, this grant from the Department of Education, to be able to disseminate our circles to help all students, but particularly students who are facing the greatest obstacles, our homeless students, our foster youth, our students who really need the benefit of circles to be heard, known, and valued. Thank you.
So I was just part of the circle session here at PSC, and it went really well. I got very positive feedback. I got some constructive feedback as well, as far as how to translate it to bigger schools and things like that. And people want templates. So I am hopeful that we can take this feedback and give the people what they need and what they want. And it was a really awesome experience to be a part of this here at the conference.